My ex-fiancé's new girlfriend called me at 2 a.m. last night, pretending to be him. This wasn't the first time. And what I discovered about why she keeps doing this will show you exactly what happens when someone builds their happiness on lies and betrayal. My name is Rachel, I'm 28 years old, and until 6 months ago, I thought I knew what love looked like. Let me take you back to where this all started, because understanding how we got here makes what happened last night even more twisted. I met Tyler 3 years ago at a bookstore in downtown Austin. I was browsing the psychology section, looking for something to help with a work presentation, when this guy approached me holding the same book I was considering. We both reached for the last copy at the same time, our hands touching briefly. He immediately pulled back and smiled, saying I should take it since I saw it first. That simple act of kindness caught my attention immediately. We ended up talking for over an hour right there in the aisle. Tyler was working as a marketing coordinator for a local tech startup, had this warm, easy laugh, and shared my love for live music and food trucks. When he suggested we grab coffee at the little cafe inside the bookstore, I didn't hesitate. What was supposed to be a quick book shopping trip turned into one of those conversations where you lose complete track of time. Our first official date was at Zilker Park during the spring. Tyler packed this elaborate picnic with barbecue from Franklin's and craft beer from a local brewery, somehow remembering every detail I'd mentioned during our bookstore conversation. We spent the afternoon lounging on the grass, talking about our dreams and fears, sharing stories from our childhoods. When the sun started setting over Lady Bird Lake, Tyler pulled out a thermos of iced coffee he'd secretly prepared, knowing I was always craving caffeine. I remember thinking this was exactly the kind of thoughtful, romantic gesture I'd always hoped for but never experienced. The relationship blossomed naturally from there. Within 8 months, we had our own rhythm and traditions. Tyler would leave little motivational notes on my bathroom mirror before big work presentations. I'd surprise him with tickets to shows at the Continental Club or Antone's, venues he'd casually mentioned wanting to visit. We became that couple who genuinely enjoyed each other's company, whether we were exploring South Congress or just spending quiet evenings at home binge-watching series. Tyler fit seamlessly into my life and my family. When I brought him home to meet my parents in Houston for Thanksgiving, my usually skeptical father spent the entire evening discussing the Astros with Tyler, who had done research on the team just to connect with my dad. My mother kept pulling me aside to whisper about how polite and charming he was, how he insisted on helping with the dishes and remembered to ask about her garden. We started building a shared vision of our future together. Tyler would point out houses and neighborhoods we'd drive through, talking about which ones would be perfect for raising kids. We spent lazy Sunday mornings at coffee shops, sketching out business ideas on napkins, dreaming about the life we'd build together. I even started a secret Pinterest board full of wedding venues around Austin, though we weren't officially engaged yet. Everything felt so perfectly aligned, like we were two puzzle pieces that had finally found each other. The proposal came 18 months into our relationship, and it was everything I could have asked for. Tyler planned it during Austin City Limits Music Festival, our favorite annual tradition. We were watching one of our favorite bands perform as the sun set behind the stage, and during a quiet moment between songs, he got down on one knee right there in the crowd. The ring was perfect, a vintage-style setting with a diamond that caught the stage lights beautifully. I said yes before he even finished his speech, tears streaming down my face as the crowd around us cheered. The engagement period was pure bliss. We spent months planning our wedding, set for the following October at a beautiful venue in the Hill Country. Tyler was involved in every detail, from tasting cakes to choosing flowers. We were that sickeningly happy couple that made our friends roll their eyes with how in love we were. I thought I had found my person, my forever. But looking back now, I can see that's when the first small cracks started to appear, though I was too happy to notice them at the time. It started with Tyler's phone habits changing. He'd always been pretty open about his phone, leaving it lying around, not caring if I saw his notifications. But suddenly, he started keeping it face down more often, taking it with him to the bathroom, stepping outside to take certain calls. When I asked about it casually, he said work had gotten more demanding and he was dealing with some confidential client projects. It made sense, so I didn't think much of it. Then there was the gym membership. Tyler had never been particularly fitness-focused during our relationship. He was naturally lean and preferred hiking or playing pickup basketball to structured workouts. But suddenly, he joined this expensive CrossFit gym across town and started going every day after work. He'd come home later and later, always with stories about the brutal workouts and the supportive community there. Again, it seemed reasonable. Maybe he was just trying to get in better shape for the wedding. The most subtle change was in how he talked about his female coworkers. Tyler had always been friendly and professional with everyone at work, and he'd occasionally mention colleagues in passing. But he started bringing up this one woman, Natalie, more frequently. She was new to the company, apparently really talented, and they'd been assigned to work on several projects together. Tyler would mention her insights on marketing strategies, her creative ideas, how impressive her portfolio was. I felt a tiny twinge of something, but I pushed it down. I trusted Tyler completely, and I didn't want to be that paranoid fiancé who got jealous over coworker friendships. The real warning sign came about 3 months before our wedding. Tyler and I were supposed to attend his company's annual summer party together. I had bought a new dress specifically for the event, and I was excited to meet more of his colleagues and see the office I'd heard so much about. But the morning of the party, Tyler suddenly said he thought it might be better if he went alone. He claimed it would be mostly boring work talk and that I'd probably have more fun doing something else. When I pushed back, saying I was looking forward to it, he got defensive. "Rachel, it's really not going to be fun for you. Trust me, these corporate events are deadly boring. Why don't you have a girls' night instead?" I was hurt and confused, but Tyler seemed so adamant that I eventually agreed to skip it. He kissed me goodbye, telling me he'd be home early and we could order takeout and watch a movie. But he didn't come home early. He rolled in after midnight, slightly drunk, claiming the party had run way later than expected and that several people had gone to a bar afterward. When I asked why he hadn't texted, he said his phone had died and he'd forgotten his charger. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on what exactly. Tyler seemed a little distant, distracted, like his mind was somewhere else even when we were together. Our conversations, which had always flowed so naturally, started feeling forced sometimes. He'd zone out in the middle of stories I was telling, and when I'd ask what he was thinking about, he'd always say work stuff or wedding planning. I started paying more attention to the small details. Tyler was showering immediately when he got home from the gym, which he'd never done before. He was more protective of his phone, turning the screen away when texting or leaving the room to take calls. When we went out together, he seemed to be scanning the room constantly, like he was looking for someone or worried about running into someone. The breaking point came just 2 months before our wedding. I had decided to surprise Tyler by bringing lunch to his office. We'd done this kind of thing throughout our relationship, and his coworkers knew me well. I picked up sandwiches from his favorite deli and headed to his building downtown. But when I got to his floor, Tyler wasn't at his desk. His colleague Mike told me Tyler had left for a client lunch about an hour earlier and wasn't expected back until late afternoon. This was strange because Tyler had texted me that morning complaining about being swamped with work and probably having to eat at his desk. I decided to wait a few minutes, thinking maybe Mike was mistaken about the timing. That's when I overheard 2 other coworkers talking near the coffee machine. "Did you see Tyler and Natalie leave together again? That's like the 3rd time this week." I know, right? For people who are just working on a project together, they sure spend a lot of time out of the office. My stomach dropped. I quietly left the sandwiches on Tyler's desk with a note and walked out, my mind racing. Maybe it really was just work. Maybe I was overreacting. But the doubt had been planted, and it started growing rapidly. That evening, when Tyler came home, I mentioned that I'd stopped by his office. "Oh, that was sweet of you, babe. Sorry I missed you. Mike said you brought lunch?" "Yeah, he said you were at a client lunch. How did it go?" Tyler paused for just a moment too long. "It was fine. Pretty standard stuff. Thanks for the sandwich, I ate it when I got back." But I knew he was lying. The sandwich was still sitting on his desk when I left at 2 p.m., and the note I'd written was still folded exactly how I'd left it. Tyler hadn't been back to his desk that afternoon. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there next to Tyler, listening to his breathing, trying to make sense of what I was feeling. Part of me wanted to confront him directly, but another part of me was terrified of what I might discover. We were 8 weeks away from our wedding. All the deposits were paid, guests had booked flights, my dress was hanging in the closet. The idea that everything might be falling apart felt impossible to process. Instead, I decided to do something I'd never done before in our relationship. I decided to investigate. The next day, while Tyler was at work, I did something that went against every instinct I had about trust and privacy. I logged into our shared laptop and looked at Tyler's social media accounts. What I found made my blood run cold. Tyler had been liking and commenting on photos from someone named Natalie Morrison. Recent photos. Photos of her at the gym, photos of her at restaurants, photos of her hiking, photos of her at what looked like work events. The comments weren't explicitly inappropriate, but they had a tone I recognized. The same tone Tyler had used when we were first flirting, before we started dating officially. Looking strong. That workout routine is definitely paying off. Flex biceps. That restaurant looks amazing. We should check it out sometime. Great shot. The lighting is perfect. I scrolled back through months of interactions. It was all there, a digital paper trail of growing intimacy. Tyler had been engaging with this woman's life in a way that felt far too personal for just a coworker. And she was responding in kind, with flirty comments and inside jokes that suggested they spent a lot of time together. But the real bombshell was when I found Tyler's Instagram story views. Instagram shows you who's viewed your stories, and Tyler had been religiously checking Natalie's stories, often within minutes of her posting them. Stories from late at night, early in the morning, weekends. He was paying attention to her life in real time, in a way that suggested she was constantly on his mind. I felt sick. My hands were shaking as I closed the laptop. This was really happening. My fiancé, the man I was supposed to marry in 2 months, was clearly having some kind of emotional affair at minimum. Maybe more. I spent the rest of that day in a daze, trying to figure out what to do next. Part of me wanted to confront Tyler immediately, to demand answers and explanations. But another part of me knew I needed more information before I made any decisions that would change everything. That's when I made a choice that I'm still not sure was right, but it felt necessary at the time. I decided to follow Tyler. The next evening, Tyler told me he was going to the gym and then might grab drinks with some coworkers afterward. He said he'd probably be home late and not to wait up. I kissed him goodbye like nothing was wrong, then waited 15 minutes before getting in my car. I drove to Tyler's CrossFit gym and parked across the street where I could see the entrance. I felt like a crazy person, like someone I'd never been before. But I had to know the truth. Tyler's car wasn't in the parking lot. I waited for an hour, thinking maybe he was running late or had stopped somewhere first. But Tyler never showed up to the gym that night. I drove by a few of the bars near his office, the places where his coworkers typically went for happy hour. No sign of Tyler's car. I was starting to feel ridiculous and invasive when I decided to drive by one more place, a trendy restaurant in South Austin that Tyler had mentioned wanting to try. And there it was. Tyler's car, parked right out front. I found a parking spot down the street and walked back toward the restaurant. Through the large front windows, I could see inside clearly. And there was Tyler, sitting at a cozy corner table, leaning across toward a beautiful brunette woman I'd never seen before but somehow knew immediately was Natalie. They weren't sitting like coworkers having a professional dinner. Tyler's hand was on the table, palm up, and her fingers were intertwined with his. They were looking into each other's eyes with an intimacy that made my stomach churn. When she laughed at something he said, she touched his arm in a way that was unmistakably romantic. I stood there on the sidewalk, watching my fiancé have what was clearly a date with another woman, and I felt my entire world crumble around me. 3 years together, an engagement, a wedding planned down to the smallest detail, and here he was, holding hands with someone else like our entire relationship meant nothing. But instead of bursting into the restaurant and making a scene, I did something that surprised even me. I took out my phone and recorded a short video through the window, making sure to capture Tyler's face clearly, their intertwined hands, the romantic setting. Then I walked back to my car and drove home. I sat in my driveway for 20 minutes, crying and trying to process what I'd just witnessed. Then I went inside, washed my face, put on pajamas, and got into bed like it was any other night. Tyler came home around 11 p.m., smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. "How was the gym?" I asked, not looking up from my book. "Good, really good. Got a great workout in. Then we grabbed a few beers at that place near the office. Nothing too exciting." I nodded and said goodnight, then lay awake until 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling and trying to figure out my next move. The revelation that Tyler was cheating hit me like a physical blow, but what happened next was almost worse. I had concrete proof of his betrayal, but I found myself paralyzed by indecision. Do I confront him immediately? Do I gather more evidence? Do I call off the wedding? Do I try to salvage things somehow? I spent the next few days going through the motions of normal life while feeling completely hollow inside. Tyler seemed oblivious to my internal turmoil, chatting about wedding details and weekend plans like nothing had changed. The cognitive dissonance was almost unbearable. But then something shifted inside me. Instead of wallowing in hurt and confusion, I started to get angry. Really angry. Tyler wasn't just cheating on me, he was lying to my face every single day. He was making me complicit in my own deception, letting me plan a wedding to a man who was already committed to someone else. The sheer disrespect of it all was staggering. That's when I decided I needed to know everything. Not just about Natalie, but about how long this had been going on, how serious it was, and what exactly I was dealing with. I started paying closer attention to Tyler's patterns and behaviors. I noticed he always showered immediately after coming home from his gym sessions. His laundry smelled different, like fabric softener we didn't use. He'd started wearing cologne on days when he claimed to be just going to work. His phone was constantly buzzing with notifications that he'd quickly dismiss. The most telling sign was how he talked about the future. Our future. Conversations about the wedding became perfunctory, like he was going through the motions. When I'd bring up honeymoon plans or talk about our life after marriage, Tyler would seem distracted, giving vague responses or changing the subject. One evening, I decided to test him. Tyler, I was thinking about the seating chart for the reception. Should we put your coworkers at table 6 or 7? Whatever you think is best, babe. What about Natalie? Should she sit with the other people from your marketing team? Tyler's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. He recovered quickly, but I caught that split second of panic. Natalie? Oh, she probably won't be able to make it. She mentioned having some family thing that weekend. Another lie. I had checked the company directory online, and Natalie had only been with Tyler's company for 6 months. It was highly unlikely she'd been invited to our wedding at all, let alone RSVP'd with a conflict. That's when I realized Tyler was living in a complete fantasy, thinking he could manage both relationships without either of us finding out. He was planning to marry me while carrying on with Natalie, probably thinking he could figure out the details later. The final piece of evidence came completely by accident. Tyler had left his laptop open on the kitchen counter while he showered, and a notification popped up from his personal email. I glanced over and saw the preview of a message from N with the subject line, "Can't wait for this weekend." I knew I shouldn't look, but I couldn't help myself. I quickly opened the email thread and found months of correspondence between Tyler and Natalie. Not just flirty messages, but deeply intimate conversations. Plans for romantic getaways. Discussions about their future together. Most devastating of all, there were messages where Tyler complained about feeling trapped by our engagement and wedding plans. "I keep thinking about what you said about taking control of my own happiness," Tyler had written. "This wedding feels like something that's happening to me, not something I chose. When I'm with you, everything feels clear and right." Natalie had responded, "You deserve to be with someone who makes you feel alive, not obligated. Life is too short to settle for comfort over passion." I felt like I was going to be sick. This wasn't just a physical affair or even an emotional affair. Tyler and Natalie were actively planning a life together while I was planning a wedding to him. But the most shocking discovery came at the very end of their email chain. Tyler had written, "I've been thinking about what we discussed. After the wedding, I'll wait a few months and then tell Rachel I'm not happy. We can make it look like we grew apart naturally. That way, she won't be humiliated, and we can be together without all the drama of a cancelled wedding." Tyler was planning to marry me and then leave me a few months later so he could be with Natalie. He was going to let me go through with the wedding, let all our friends and family celebrate, let me believe I was starting my happily ever after, all while knowing he was going to abandon me as soon as it was convenient. The level of callousness was breathtaking. I sat there in my kitchen, reading evidence of my fiancé's elaborate deception, and I realized I was looking at a complete stranger. The man I thought I knew and loved simply didn't exist. That night, Tyler came home from another gym session and found me sitting calmly at the kitchen table. "Hey babe, how was your day?" I looked up at him, this man who had been systematically destroying my life while pretending to love me, and I made a decision. "It was enlightening," I said quietly. Something in my tone must have alerted him because Tyler's expression shifted slightly. "Everything okay?" I slid his laptop across the table toward him, still open to his email conversation with Natalie. "You tell me." I will never forget the look on Tyler's face when he realized what I'd found. The color drained from his cheeks, and for a moment, he looked like he might actually pass out. Then, predictably, he tried to spin it. "Rachel, I can explain. This isn't what it looks like." "Really?" "Because it looks like you've been planning to marry me and then leave me so you can be with your coworker without the social embarrassment of a cancelled wedding." Tyler sank into the chair across from me, and I could see him frantically trying to figure out how to salvage the situation. "I'm confused, Rachel. I love you. I want to marry you. Natalie is she's going through a hard time, and I was trying to be supportive." Some of those messages were taken out of context. The audacity was stunning. Even caught red-handed with months of evidence, Tyler was still trying to gaslight me. "So the romantic dinners I watched you have were just emotional support?" Tyler's eyes widened. "You followed me? I trusted you for 3 years, Tyler. The least you can do is give me the truth now." We sat in silence for several long moments. I could see Tyler weighing his options, trying to decide how much to admit and how much to deny. Finally, he seemed to realize the jig was up. "I never meant for this to happen, Rachel. I love you, I really do. But when I met Natalie, I felt something I haven't felt in a long time. She understands parts of me that you don't. She challenges me in ways that make me feel alive. So you decided to marry me anyway and figure it out later?" Tyler looked down at his hands. "I thought maybe it would pass. I thought maybe after we got married, I'd feel differently. I was hoping I could make it work with you." "Hoping you could make it work?" "Tyler, we're not a backup plan. Marriage isn't something you just hope works out while you're in love with someone else. I know. I'm sorry, Rachel. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. But the apology felt hollow because I knew it wasn't really about hurting me. Tyler was sorry he got caught. He was sorry his elaborate plan had fallen apart. He wasn't sorry about betraying me or lying to me for months. He was sorry about the inconvenience of having to deal with the consequences. So what happens now? I asked. Tyler looked up hopefully. Can we work through this? I'll end things with Natalie completely. We can go to counseling. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. I stared at this man who had been the center of my world for 3 years, and I felt absolutely nothing. No love, no anger, no hope, no sadness. Just a profound emptiness where all those feelings used to be. Tyler, even if I could forgive the cheating, I could never forgive the plan to marry me knowing you were going to leave. That's not a mistake or a moment of weakness. That's calculated cruelty. Rachel, please. I was confused and scared and I made terrible decisions, but I don't want to lose you. You already lost me. You lost me months ago when you decided Natalie was more important than our relationship. You lost me when you decided to lie to my face every single day. You lost me when you planned to humiliate me by leaving right after our wedding. Tyler started crying then, and I realized how manipulative even his tears felt. Everything about him suddenly seemed calculated and insincere. What about the wedding? What about all our plans? The wedding is off, obviously. As for our plans, I guess you can make new ones with Natalie. I stood up from the table, feeling strangely calm and clear-headed. I want you out of the apartment by tomorrow evening. We can figure out the logistics of canceling everything later, but I need you gone as soon as possible. Rachel, wait. Please don't do this. We can fix this. But I was already walking toward the bedroom to pack a bag. I was going to stay at my sister's place for the night and let Tyler process the reality of his situation. As I threw clothes into a duffel bag, Tyler followed me, continuing to plead his case. I'll call Natalie right now and end it completely. I'll quit my job if I have to. Rachel, please, you're the woman I want to marry. I turned to face him one last time. No, Tyler. I'm the woman you were willing to marry as a cover story while you built a life with someone else. That's not the same thing at all. I grabbed my bag and walked toward the front door. Tyler was still talking, still making promises and excuses, but I was done listening. I'll come back tomorrow evening to talk about practical stuff. Have your things packed. And then I left. I walked out of the apartment I'd shared with Tyler for over a year, got in my car, and drove to my sister Jennifer's house. Jennifer took one look at my face and knew something catastrophic had happened. Over wine and ice cream, I told her everything. About Natalie, about the emails, about Tyler's plan to marry me and leave me. Jennifer was appropriately outraged, calling Tyler every name in the book and offering to key his car. But what struck me was how relieved I felt to finally tell someone the truth. For days, I'd been carrying around this terrible secret, feeling like I was going crazy. Having it all out in the open, even just to my sister, made me feel like I could breathe again. So what's the plan? Jennifer asked. Honestly, I don't know. Cancel everything, I guess. Figure out how to untangle 3 years of shared life. Start over. What about telling people what really happened? I hadn't thought about that yet. Tyler and I had a lot of mutual friends, shared social circles, coworkers who were invited to the wedding. What was I going to tell them about why we suddenly broke up? I think I'll just say we realized we weren't compatible and decided to end things amicably. Jennifer looked at me like I was insane. Rachel, he cheated on you and planned to marry you under false pretenses. Why would you protect him? I'm not protecting him, I'm protecting myself. I don't want to be the jilted woman whose fiancé left her for someone else. I don't want people's pity or to have to relive this humiliation over and over. But even as I said it, I wondered if I was making the right choice. The next evening, I returned to the apartment as planned. Tyler had packed his clothes and personal items, but the space still felt heavy with his presence. We sat at the same kitchen table where I'd confronted him and tried to work out the practical details of separating our lives. Canceling the wedding was going to be expensive and complicated. We'd lose most of our deposits, but I didn't care about the money. I just wanted it done. Tyler offered to handle telling the vendors and our families, but I insisted on doing it myself. I wanted control over the narrative. We divided up our shared belongings with surprising efficiency. Tyler didn't fight me on anything, probably because he felt guilty, or more likely because he was eager to start his new life with Natalie and didn't want unnecessary complications. The hardest part was returning the engagement ring. Tyler tried to tell me to keep it, but I couldn't bear the thought of looking at it ever again. It represented a lie, a promise that was never real. For what it's worth, Rachel, I really am sorry. I never wanted things to end this way. How did you want them to end, Tyler? With you leaving me 6 months after our wedding when it was more convenient for you? He didn't have an answer for that. After Tyler left with his boxes and suitcases, I sat alone in the apartment that suddenly felt enormous and empty. I ordered Chinese food, opened a bottle of wine, and started making a list of everyone I needed to call about the wedding cancellation. The conversations with family and friends were brutal. Everyone was shocked and asking questions I didn't want to answer. I stuck to my story about realizing we weren't compatible, but I could tell people sensed there was more to it. My mother cried, my father was furious and wanted to know what Tyler had done, and my grandmother just held me while I finally let myself fall apart. The worst part was how sorry everyone felt for me. The pitying looks, the gentle questions about how I was holding up, the awkward conversations where people clearly wanted details but didn't know how to ask. I felt like I was wearing a scarlet letter that said, "Abandoned bride." But something interesting happened over the next few weeks. As I went through the process of canceling everything and rebuilding my life, I started to feel stronger instead of weaker. Every vendor I called, every deposit I wrote off, every wedding-related item I threw away or returned, felt like a step toward freedom. I realized that Tyler had done me a favor by showing me who he really was before we got married. Imagine if I had discovered his capacity for deception and manipulation after we had legally bound our lives together, maybe after we had kids. The betrayal hurt, but the timing could have been so much worse. Still, I thought that was the end of the story. Tyler moved in with Natalie pretty much immediately after leaving our apartment. I heard through mutual friends that they were very happy together, taking romantic trips and posting cute couple photos on social media. It stung, but I was genuinely trying to move on. I started therapy to process the betrayal and work on trusting my instincts again. I threw myself into work and spent more time with friends and family. I even went on a few dates, though nothing serious. For the first time in years, I was learning who I was as an individual rather than as half of a couple. That was 6 months ago. I thought Tyler and Natalie were living happily ever after while I rebuilt my life from scratch. I had blocked them both on social media, deleted Tyler's number, and hadn't heard from either of them since the day Tyler moved out. Until last night. The first call came at 2:17 a.m. I was in deep sleep when my phone started ringing. The number wasn't saved in my contacts, but I recognized it as Tyler's. My first instinct was not to answer, but something made me pick up. Maybe curiosity, maybe concern that there was some kind of emergency. "Hello?" I answered, my voice groggy with sleep. "Rachel." It was Tyler's voice, but something was off about it. He sounded different somehow. "I've been thinking about you." I sat up in bed, immediately more alert. "Tyler? What are you doing calling me at 2 a.m.? "I miss you, Rachel." "I miss us." I made a huge mistake. This was so far from what I expected to hear that I didn't know how to respond. "Tyler, you're with Natalie now. You made your choice months ago." "That's what I'm calling about. Things with Natalie aren't what I thought they'd be. She's not you, Rachel. She'll never be you." I felt a surge of anger. "You don't get to call me at 2 a.m. and tell me you miss me, Tyler. You gave up the right to my emotional energy when you cheated on me." I know. But Rachel, I think we could try again. I think we could make it work this time." The audacity was breathtaking. Tyler had destroyed our relationship, moved in with another woman, and now he was calling me in the middle of the night suggesting we get back together? "Are you drunk?" I asked. "No, I'm not drunk. I'm thinking clearly for the first time in months. Natalie isn't right for me, Rachel." "You are? Then why are you still with her?" There was a long pause. "It's complicated." "It's really not complicated, Tyler. Either you want to be with her or you don't. Either you want to be with me or you don't. You can't have both." "I want to be with you, Rachel. I want to try again." I hung up. My hands were shaking as I set the phone back on my nightstand. I couldn't believe Tyler had the nerve to call me, especially in the middle of the night, to suggest we reconcile while he was still living with the woman he'd left me for. But as I lay there trying to fall back asleep, something about the conversation bothered me. Tyler's voice had sounded strange, not quite like himself. And some of the things he'd said seemed off, like someone trying to impersonate how they thought Tyler would talk. The second call came 3 nights later, at 2:23 a.m. Again, Tyler's number, but this time I was ready for it. "Rachel, it's me again." "Tyler, I told you not to call me." "What part of that didn't you understand?" I can't stop thinking about our conversation the other night. I meant what I said about wanting to try again. But something was definitely wrong with his voice. It sounded like Tyler, but not quite. Like someone doing an impression of Tyler. "Who is this?" I asked. "What do you mean?" "It's Tyler." "No, it's not. Tyler has a slight Texas accent from growing up in Houston." "You don't. Who is this really?" The line went dead. Now I was really unsettled. Someone was calling me in the middle of the night, pretending to be my ex-fiancé, trying to convince me to get back together with him. But who would do that, and why? The third call came last night, and this time I was prepared. I had my voice recording app ready and my wits about me. The phone rang at 2:11 a.m. Tyler's number again. Hello, I answered, making sure to hit record. Rachel, please don't hang up. It's Tyler. No, it's not Tyler. I know it's not Tyler. So who is this? There was a long pause, and then the voice changed completely. It became higher, more feminine, with a slight nervous tremor. Fine. It's Natalie. I almost dropped the phone. Tyler's girlfriend had been calling me in the middle of the night, pretending to be him, trying to convince me to take him back. Natalie? What the hell are you doing? I needed to know, she said, her voice small and shaky now that she wasn't trying to disguise it. Know what? I needed to know if you still had feelings for him. If you'd take him back if he asked. I was so confused and angry I could barely form words. Are you insane? Why would you care whether I'd take Tyler back? You're with him now. Because I know he still loves you, Natalie said, and I could hear that she was crying. I know he thinks about you all the time. I know he compares me to you constantly. I know I'm not enough for him. The pieces started falling into place. This woman, who had supposedly won Tyler, was so insecure about their relationship that she was calling me in the middle of the night to test whether I was still a threat. Natalie, this is completely insane. You're with Tyler now. You got what you wanted. Did I? She laughed bitterly. Do you know what it's like to be with someone who's constantly mourning another relationship? Do you know what it's like to know that you're second choice? I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction hearing this, but also genuine confusion. If Tyler is so miserable with you, why doesn't he just leave? Because he's comfortable. Because it's easier than admitting he made a mistake. Because he's a coward who doesn't want to be alone. There was something almost pathetic about hearing Natalie describe her own relationship this way. She had broken up my engagement, stolen my fiancé, and now she was calling me to complain about how unhappy she was with him. Natalie, I need you to understand something very clearly. I don't want Tyler back. Even if he came crawling to me tomorrow, begging for another chance, I would say no. What he did to me was unforgivable, and I've moved on completely. You're lying, she said. I heard how you talked to him when I was pretending to be him. You still care about him. I was confused because someone was calling me in the middle of the night claiming to be my ex-fiancé. That doesn't mean I want him back. But would you take him back if he left me? The desperation in her voice was palpable. This woman was torturing herself, obsessing over a relationship that clearly wasn't making either of them happy. Natalie, listen to me very carefully. Tyler cheated on me, lied to me for months, and planned to marry me knowing he was going to leave me afterward. He is not a good person. He is not someone worth fighting for. And if he's treating you badly now, it's because that's who he is, not because he's pining for me. You don't understand, she sobbed. He talks about you in his sleep. He still has photos of you on his laptop. He gets this look on his face sometimes, like he's remembering something beautiful that he lost. I felt a chill run down my spine. Not because I was jealous or wanted Tyler back, but because I was starting to understand just how toxic their relationship had become. Natalie, why are you telling me this? What do you want from me? I want you to fight for him, she said, which was the last thing I expected to hear. I want you to call him and tell him you want him back. I want you to make him choose between us. Why would you want that? Because I need to know if he'd choose you. I need to know if I'm wasting my time trying to make this work. The psychology of it was fascinating and disturbing. Natalie was so insecure about Tyler's feelings that she wanted to create a scenario where she could lose him, just to confirm her worst fears. Natalie, I'm not going to play games with your relationship. You want to know if Tyler loves you? Ask him. You want to know if he'd leave you for me? Ask him. But leave me out of it. He'll just lie to me, like he lied to you. And there it was. Natalie knew exactly who Tyler was. She knew he was a liar and a cheater, but she was staying with him anyway, making herself miserable in the process. If you know Tyler is a liar, why are you with him? Because I love him, she whispered. Because when we first got together, he made me feel like I was the most amazing woman in the world. Because I thought if I just tried hard enough, I could make him happy. I recognized that feeling. I remembered believing that love could overcome anything, that if you just tried hard enough and loved someone deeply enough, you could make any relationship work. Natalie, you can't love someone into being a better person. Tyler showed you who he was when he cheated on me with you. Why did you think he'd be different with you? I thought I was special. I thought what we had was different. And now? Now I know that if he could do it to you, he could do it to anyone. Including me. The conversation was taking a turn I hadn't expected. Instead of being angry at this woman who had wrecked my relationship, I was starting to feel sorry for her. Natalie, has Tyler cheated on you? There was a long pause. I don't know. Maybe. Probably. He's been acting the same way he acted when he was cheating on you. Coming home late, being secretive with his phone, making excuses about work. So you're living the same nightmare I lived, except now you know what the signs look like. Yes, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I sat there in my bed at 2:30 in the morning, talking to the woman who had destroyed my life 6 months ago, and I realized something profound. Natalie hadn't won anything. She hadn't stolen some great prize from me. She had inherited a cheating, lying man who was incapable of being faithful to anyone. Natalie, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. When you and Tyler first got together, did you feel guilty about what you were doing to me? Yes, she admitted. At first, I felt terrible. But Tyler told me that your relationship was already over, that you two were just going through the motions, that the engagement was a mistake. He made it sound like he was trapped and miserable, and I was rescuing him. And you believed him? I wanted to believe him. It made it easier to justify what we were doing. What changed your mind? After Tyler moved in with me, I found some things. Love letters you had written him that he'd kept. Photos of you two that he claimed he'd thrown away. A journal where he wrote about how much he missed you and how guilty he felt. My heart clenched. Even after everything Tyler had put me through, it hurt to know he had been grieving our relationship while pretending to be happy with Natalie. That must have been hard to find. It was devastating. I realized that Tyler hadn't left you for me. He'd left you because he was scared of commitment, and I just happened to be a convenient excuse. So why did you stay? Because I'd already destroyed your relationship. Because I'd already turned myself into the other woman. Because I thought maybe if I just gave him time, he'd get over you and really fall in love with me. And has he? No. If anything, it's gotten worse. The longer we're together, the more obvious it becomes that he regrets losing you. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me felt vindicated, knowing that Tyler realized he'd made a mistake. But mostly, I just felt sad for everyone involved. Natalie, can I tell you something? Yes. You calling me tonight, pretending to be Tyler, using his phone to try to manipulate me into some kind of confrontation? That's not the behavior of someone in a healthy relationship. That's not the behavior of someone who's happy. I know. And Tyler lying to you, keeping mementos of our relationship, comparing you to me constantly? That's not the behavior of someone who's committed to building a life with you. I know. So what are you going to do about it? There was a long silence. I could hear Natalie breathing on the other end of the line, probably weighing her options. I don't know. I've invested so much in this relationship. I gave up my job to move in with him. I burned bridges with friends who thought what I did to you was wrong. I don't know how to start over. The same way I did. One day at a time. But you're stronger than me. You're better than me. That's why Tyler can't get over you. Natalie, I'm not better than you. I'm just someone who refused to accept being treated badly. Tyler didn't lose me because I'm so amazing. He lost me because he made choices that destroyed our relationship. Do you really not want him back? I really don't. Tyler showed me that he's capable of elaborate deception and cruelty. Even if he begged me to take him back, even if he promised to change, I could never trust him again. And I deserve to be with someone I can trust completely. I wish I was that strong. You can be. But first, you have to stop calling me in the middle of the night and start dealing with your actual relationship problems. Natalie laughed shakily. You're right. This is crazy. I can't believe I've been doing this. How many times have you called me? 3 times. Tonight, and twice before using Tyler's phone when he was asleep. Does Tyler know? No. I've been careful to delete the calls from his phone history. So Tyler had no idea his girlfriend was impersonating him to contact me. Which meant this was entirely Natalie's psychological breakdown, not some scheme they'd cooked up together. Natalie, you need to tell Tyler what you've been doing. I can't. He'll think I'm crazy. You are acting crazy. But more importantly, you're acting like someone who's desperately unhappy and doesn't know how to fix it. What if I tell him and he leaves me? What if you don't tell him and you stay trapped in this miserable situation forever? Another long pause. You really think I should leave him? I think you should do whatever makes you happy. But I don't think staying with someone who lies to you and compares you to his ex-fiancé is going to make you happy. I'm scared to be alone. I was scared to be alone too. But you know what I discovered? Being alone is so much better than being with someone who makes you feel like you're not enough. How do you do it? How do you start over? You remember who you were before Tyler. You remember what you liked, what you wanted, what made you feel good about yourself. And then you start building a life around those things instead of around someone else's feelings. I don't even remember who I was before Tyler. Then you figure out who you want to be now. We talked for another 20 minutes. Natalie told me about how isolated she'd become, how all her friendships had suffered because of the circumstances of her relationship with Tyler. She told me about giving up a job she loved to move in with him, about how she'd stopped doing hobbies she enjoyed because Tyler wasn't interested in them. It was like talking to a ghost of my former self. I remembered how I had started to lose pieces of my identity during my relationship with Tyler, how I had slowly begun organizing my life around his preferences and priorities. Natalie, can I ask you one more thing? Sure. Why did you use Tyler's phone to call me? Why not use your own? Because I wanted to see how you'd react to hearing from him. I wanted to know if you'd be happy or angry or sad. I wanted to understand what you still felt for him. And what did you learn? That you really are over him. And that I'm not. When we finally hung up, it was almost 4 a.m. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to process one of the strangest conversations of my life. The woman who had been the catalyst for the worst period of my life had just spent 2 hours pouring her heart out to me about how miserable she was. The relationship she had destroyed my engagement for was making her so unhappy that she was calling me in the middle of the night, desperately seeking some kind of resolution or closure. But what struck me most was how much Natalie's experience validated everything I had suspected about Tyler. He wasn't a good partner. He wasn't someone who could commit fully to a relationship. His patterns of behavior were consistent whether he was with me or with her. Natalie thought she had won some kind of prize when she got Tyler to leave me for her. But what she had actually won was the opportunity to experience firsthand all the things that had made our relationship ultimately unsustainable. The next morning, I woke up feeling strangely peaceful. The mystery of the late-night calls was solved, and in a weird way, talking to Natalie had given me closure I didn't even know I needed. I decided to do something I probably should have done months ago. I called Tyler. He answered on the second ring, and he sounded genuinely surprised to hear from me. Rachel? Is everything okay? Hi Tyler. I'm calling because I need to tell you something, and I think you need to know. Okay? He said cautiously. Natalie has been calling me in the middle of the night, pretending to be you. She's been using your phone while you're asleep to try to manipulate me into some kind of confrontation with you. There was dead silence on the other end of the line. What? She called me 3 times over the past 2 weeks. The first 2 times, she pretended to be you and tried to convince me that you wanted to get back together. Last night, I figured out it wasn't really you, and she admitted what she'd been doing. I had no idea. Rachel, I swear I didn't know she was doing this. I believe you. But Tyler, you need to know that your girlfriend is not okay. She's obsessed with our old relationship, she's convinced you're still in love with me, and she's so desperate for answers that she's been impersonating you to try to get them. Oh my God. Rachel, I'm so sorry. I can't believe she did this to you. Tyler, I didn't call to get an apology from you. I called because someone in your life is clearly having a breakdown, and you should probably do something about it. What did she say to you? I gave Tyler a brief summary of my conversation with Natalie, focusing on her admissions about their relationship problems and her obvious emotional distress. She thinks you're still in love with me. She thinks you compare her to me constantly. She thinks you're cheating on her or planning to cheat on her. Is any of that true? Tyler was quiet for a long moment. Some of it, he admitted. I do think about you sometimes. I do regret how things ended between us. But I'm not cheating on Natalie, and I'm not planning to. But you're not happy with her. It's complicated, Rachel. Natalie and I have issues, but that's between us. I never wanted to drag you into this. Well, I'm already dragged into it. Your girlfriend is calling me at 2 a.m. having psychological crises about your relationship. So let me be very clear about something, Tyler. I don't want you back. Even if you left Natalie tomorrow and begged me to take you back, the answer would be no. I've moved on completely, and I'm much happier without you. I understand. Do you? Because according to Natalie, you keep photos of me and talk about me in your sleep and generally act like someone who's mourning a lost love. Rachel, I'm not going to lie to you. Losing you was the biggest mistake of my life. But that doesn't mean I expect or want you to take me back. I know I destroyed any chance we had. Good. So you can tell Natalie, definitively, that I'm not a threat to your relationship. The only threat to your relationship is that you two are fundamentally incompatible and making each other miserable. You're probably right about that. Tyler, can I give you some advice? Sure. Stop wasting both your time and Natalie's time. If you're not happy with her, leave. If you are happy with her, commit to the relationship fully and stop living in the past. But don't stay with her out of guilt or convenience while secretly wishing you were with someone else. It's not fair to either of you. You're right. You're absolutely right. And Tyler? Don't ever let anyone use your phone to contact me again. If you or Natalie have something to say to me in the future, which I hope you don't, use your own phone and your own voice. I understand. Rachel, for what it's worth, I really am sorry about everything. About cheating on you, about lying to you, and about Natalie dragging you into this mess. I know you are, Tyler. But sorry doesn't change anything. It just means you understand that you did something wrong. After I hung up with Tyler, I felt like a chapter of my life had finally closed completely. Not just the chapter about our relationship, but the chapter about wondering what might have been, about whether I had made the right choice in leaving him, about whether he was happier without me. Now I knew the truth. Tyler wasn't happier. He was stuck in a relationship that wasn't working, with someone who was making both of them miserable. But that wasn't my problem to solve anymore. I also realized something important about myself. 6 months ago, when Tyler first betrayed me, I felt like my world had ended. I felt like I had lost something irreplaceable, like I might never find love again. But talking to Natalie last night, hearing about her desperation and misery and obsession, I realized how much I had grown. I was no longer the woman who would call someone at 2 a.m. begging for answers about a relationship. I was no longer the woman who would stay with someone who made me feel like I wasn't enough. Tyler had broken my heart, but he had also freed me from a relationship that would have made me as unhappy as Natalie was now. That afternoon, I decided to do something I'd been putting off for months. I updated my dating profile and started swiping through potential matches. Not because I was desperate to find someone new, but because I was finally ready to meet someone who could love me completely, without reservations or comparisons. 3 days later, Natalie called me one more time. But this time, it was during normal hours, and she used her own phone. "Rachel, it's Natalie. I know you probably don't want to hear from me again, but I wanted to thank you." "Thank me for what?" "For being honest with me the other night. For telling me that I deserved better than what I was accepting." "What happened?" I told Tyler about the phone calls. "We had a huge fight, and he admitted that he's not over you, that he's been staying with me because he doesn't want to be alone, not because he really wants to be with me." "I'm sorry, Natalie. That must have been hard to hear." "It was. But it was also a relief, you know? To finally have the truth out in the open instead of just suspecting it." "So what are you going to do?" "I'm moving out. I found a studio apartment across town, and I'm starting over. It's scary, but it's also exciting." "Good for you. That takes a lot of courage. I learned it from you. The way you handled everything with Tyler, the way you refused to accept less than you deserved, the way you rebuilt your life after he destroyed it. You showed me what self-respect looks like." I was quiet for a moment, absorbing the irony of being called a role model by the woman who had wrecked my engagement. "Natalie, I hope things work out for you." "I really do." "Thank you." "And Rachel? I know I can never make up for what I did to you, but I want you to know that I understand now how wrong I was. Tyler wasn't mine to take, and I should never have gotten involved with someone who was engaged to someone else. I appreciate you saying that. I hope someday you can forgive me." "I already have, Natalie. Holding on to anger wasn't hurting you, it was hurting me. So I let it go." "You're a better person than I am." "No, I'm just someone who learned that forgiveness is more about my own peace of mind than about excusing other people's behavior." After we hung up, I sat in my apartment feeling something I hadn't expected to feel about the situation: gratitude. Tyler's betrayal had been devastating at the time, but it had also been a gift. It had shown me who he really was before I married him. It had forced me to become stronger and more independent. It had taught me what I would and wouldn't accept in a relationship. And now, seeing the aftermath of Tyler and Natalie's relationship, I knew beyond any doubt that I had dodged a bullet. Tyler wasn't someone who could be a good partner to anyone until he dealt with his own issues. Natalie had learned that the hard way, but at least she had learned it before wasting years of her life. As for me, I was exactly where I needed to be. Single, strong, clear about my worth, and ready for whatever came next. That night, I went to bed early and slept peacefully, knowing that my phone wouldn't ring at 2 a.m. The strange chapter of late-night calls and desperate confessions was finally closed. Tyler and Natalie would have to figure out their own paths forward, just like I had figured out mine. And for the first time since this whole mess started, I was genuinely excited about my future. A few weeks later, I ran into Tyler at a coffee shop downtown. We nodded politely at each other, like acquaintances who used to know each other better. He looked tired and older somehow, like someone carrying invisible weight. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no lingering attraction. Just a mild curiosity about how someone I used to love had become someone I barely recognized. That's when I knew I was completely healed. As I walked away with my latte, I thought about that scared, heartbroken woman who had discovered her fiancé's betrayal 9 months ago. She had no idea how strong she was about to become. She had no idea that the worst thing that had ever happened to her would turn out to be one of the best things that ever happened to her. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most end up teaching us the most valuable lessons about ourselves. And sometimes, the phone calls that wake you up at 2 a.m. turn out to be exactly what you needed to hear, even when they come from the last person you'd expect to learn from. My name is Rachel, I'm 28 years old, and I finally know what real love looks like. It looks like someone who chooses you every day, not someone who keeps you around while wishing they were somewhere else. It looks like honesty and respect and commitment, not games and manipulation and desperate midnight phone calls. Tyler taught me what love isn't. And that lesson, as painful as it was to learn, turned out to be exactly what I needed to recognize what love actually is when it finally shows up in my life. Which, based on the text I just got from the guy I've been seeing for the past month, might be sooner than I expected. But that's a story for another day.